second. Make
Okay.
sure everything is loading up, and then we're going to go ahead and get started. So thank you. I am excited to be here today. I am here with two incredible women that I met recently in person at it was the Raleigh DEI Chamber all-day event, and I was so excited when one, I heard Kamille speak, but two, when I got to speak to both of you afterward. But before I get carried away, let me do my little intro. So Kamille Richardson, she's a dynamic and captivating speaker who, being born blind, has leveraged her many talents to help illuminate the successes and challenges of the blind community. And then Lakila Bowden, she proudly serves as the Chief Strategic Officer of iSee Technologies, and most importantly, Kamille's sister and seeing eye person. And I love that. iSee Technologies provides DEI consulting and training facilitation for companies and organizations who wish to be more inclusive of differently abled or disabled communities. So welcome to Better Humans at Work, and thanks for taking the time to be here with me today.
Thank you for having us. We are so excited to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. We love what you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, I love what you're doing. So speaking of what you're doing, I want to hear more about your story. We chatted about it some, and then Kamille and I know we had our one-on-one, but tell everybody listening, how did y'all get here in this dynamic sister duo in running iSee Technologies?
Okay. Oh, all right. Well, so this is Kamille, and I started out I ended up in this space. I began working in the blind community, and I was teaching them how to use assistive technology so that they could potentially gain employment. But then I was also finding that there was a bit of a disconnect between the employers and the employees who are the potential employees who are blind. So as I started navigating through this space, I started realizing that I wanted iSee Technologies to be a space that would offer a solution to those potential hiring managers, and introduce them also to a group of potential employers who were not only able to work, but they're capable of giving the opportunity. So I decided that I was going to both bridge those gaps and also just provide those kinds of solutions and speak with organizations about how to be better allies to the blind and visually impaired community. So it's work that I thoroughly enjoy doing because I do believe that I'm making a difference and also bringing awareness of the blind to the sighted community while providing potential employment opportunities as well.
Yes. Okay, so I want to talk about something just for a second. Bringing that awareness. So when I met you, like I said, you were speaking at the chamber event, and something that you did that stood out to me in that moment was when you were telling a story, you wanted to get feedback from the audience, and so you were like, well, I can't see you, so don't raise your hands, right? I believe you asked them to applaud, and I was like, oh, that's brilliant, I like that. But then I thought to myself, well, what about the people who can't hear? So the visual, like, there's some power in a visual too. And I was like, man, what'd be really great is if we could make this new standard of what I like coined as this high clap, right? And so that way it's visible, people can see it high versus if you're doing something low in your lap so high, there's sound, there's a visual. And I worked that into a conversation that I did later on for PHRA, Pittsburgh Human Resources Association. I did a talk with them. And when I was talking about micro affirmations and allyship and being there for communities, that was the example I gave. And by the end, everyone was high clapping and they loved it. So all this to say, thank you for giving me things to consider. And I gave you a shout out during that talk and just spreading your message. So you're having impact. You are having impact.
Thank you. I do appreciate that. That is absolutely my intention.
And that's how it works, right? Like a lot of times we feel like, well, people are just being, intentionally ill-willed. Sometimes it's just lack of awareness. And once you've been exposed to something and you have a better understanding of it, then it becomes integrated in how you operate day to day. So what we do, especially on the DEI side, when we work with companies and organizations to provide training and facilitation, we're helping them create something that's actually functional. not just checking a box to say, okay, we're diverse, okay, we're including people, but what does it look like on a day-to-day basis? And when you start to have those conversations, then you start to see change facilitation take place. But it has to be in a way that's real for people and that connects to people. So that is definitely one of our strong suits within iSee Technologies, is that we keep it real and we make it real. Like what we're doing is delivering DEI solutions with vision.
Yeah. So that being said, is there something that you tend to see show up a lot with your clients? A conversation that you're like, yeah, we have that conversation a lot of time of bringing awareness, or something that you're always recommending people do? Is there anything that stands out?
Yeah, one of the things that we typically want to make sure, because everybody doesn't buy in, right? Like to DEI. And maybe you have some folks that are gung-ho about it. Sometimes the HR organization is the leader. Oftentimes we find when we're working with companies, there's one person that's the DEI champion, and they have 8 other jobs also, right? So, how seriously is the organization really taking DEI? So again, I kind of come back to that point of being functional. When we come in and we do training and facilitations, we're doing it from a strengths and collaborations based perspective. And that a lot of times helps to bring the guard down for the people for the clients that we're working with, right? And their teams. And that's whether we're talking about C-suite or we're talking about, a group of agricultural chemists that are in the room, and really creating an aspirational, what are we already doing well? How do we build on what's already there, as opposed to just coming in and saying, here's all the things, here's all the areas where you're messing up. We're really focusing on what we're doing well. And that makes it easier to fix the areas, or to address, I should say, the areas where there's a need for improvement.
Yeah, that's one of the things. So with us, we're always talking about data. People listening probably like, yeah, Sertrice, data. But when we focus on data, so often it can be very easy just to pick up on the low numbers. And you're like, this is where everything's bad. But it's okay to celebrate where you're doing well and use those strengths to help you with the areas of opportunity. So I love what you were describing there. And then the second piece is just around the fact that as humans, we inherently want to be seen as good, and we think we're good. So when you go in and you start with just like, you're terrible and here's all the things you're doing wrong and you're ableist, right? Like all of a sudden people are going to start shutting down. They're not going to want to do, like, why am I going to try then? If I'm just bad, then I'm bad. I'll be bad. So I love that story of, well, here's some places where you're doing well, but where can you improve just to do better, and tying it back to values, right? It's not this whole separate thing. It's no, you said you want to be this kind of company. Well, to meet that value and goal, you need to consider this, and here's how it can improve. So love that messaging.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. You want to actually be effective. And if you want to get something done, you've got to get some level of buy-in to get the ball rolling. So,
yeah. And so, that's really good. I'm going to pivot here a little bit. I'm going to take us back because I realized I got away from myself a little bit. Kamille, when you were speaking about, when you were speaking at the chamber event, and I know just now you talked a little bit about how you got into this, would you be open to telling a bit more about the interview story? I know you're probably like, oh, I know where she's going, because I thought that was really powerful. And I think it's something that, again, people don't always think of or consider the experiences that people go through. So if you're willing to share.
No, I don't mind at all, because that's literally part of the story that I share when I'm speaking. But no, I actually came upon this work as well because of my experiences in the career search and the job search. A lot of times I would submit my resume, everything would look beautiful. I'd get an email or a call for an interview. And then the minute I walked in and they noticed me and they saw that, there was something a little different, I'm blind, the temperature would kind of drop in the room. And a lot of times, unfortunately, people wouldn't really hide the fact that they're not willing to hire somebody who doesn't look like the traditional candidate who walks through the door. So it led to a lot of frustration, a lot of just being discouraged, just feelings of inadequacy. And when I share my story, I say that story doesn't just belong to me. A lot of my blind and visually impaired peers go through that same situation. They they apply for job after job only to be faced with a lot of rejection from people who genuinely just don't know. A lot of times it's due to conscious and unconscious bias. People don't know what they don't know. So that's, again, where I come in and offer the solutions to teach people, because, when we know better, we do better.
Right.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. So I'm going to do another slight pivot here. I got a lot of thoughts in my mind today.
I'm
going to take us all over the place. And so one thing that stands out to me that as another Black woman, right, is that you are two Black women building a business from the ground up. Tell me about that experience, because I know how it was for me all of a sudden jumping into business ownership, and I was like, oh, these are all the things you don't know about running a business. So how has it been starting this business and having your sister there to help you along the way?
Well, I'm going to be very honest with you. It was not an easy process for me. It was just kind of like, for me, I'm more the kind of creative one, and I just love to talk to the people. And I said, and I also come from a place of wanting to help everyone, right? So I'm a heart-centered business owner, but I knew that also there are some business and strategic things I needed to bring into the mix as well. So for me, having my sister has definitely been a big, huge asset, because my sister spent 15 years in the corporate world. So she knows how to strategically do everything. She knows how to do the behind the scenes and all the, all the lingo that I'm learning to speak now. But, it's just amazing to be able to work alongside somebody who their strengths, they uplift your strengths. So where I fall short, she comes in and she lifts that up, and vice versa. And then we both come together and form this fabulously dynamic company together.
Yeah, and I'll just add to that, having spent over 15 years in corporate, the landscape today it's very different than it was when I first started out. There is more there's more acceptance around showing up as your authentic self. So I think we're also able to take advantage of the times, right? Where people are like, this is who I am. This is how I want to be addressed. I want to be able to not have to code switch and show up that way, right? So we are in a fortunate period, and we have a long way to go. Like, this is just the very beginning and tip of the iceberg. But we don't come from a background of a family of entrepreneurs. So to your point about being Black women building a business in the space, we faced many of the same challenges that a lot of us do. A lot of Black women are, have the highest rate of becoming entrepreneurs and building businesses, but we're also the least funded. We tend to not have teams and staff. So one of our focuses has been building this business in a more scalable way. So it's not just, if Kamille or I aren't able to manage a project, then everything falls short. So I think just being cognizant of that. Another fact that I learned from one of my mentors along the way is that Black women tend to charge a quarter of what their white male peers charge, because we do more work, right? So balancing that out, we've approached this by not being afraid to, our price is our price point. We do great work, and we deliver, but we don't come in from a space of apologetically, hey, if you don't mind, this is the invoice, and a lot of times we tend to do that because it comes along with imposter syndrome. And I know you know what I'm talking about.
I know that. I felt that in my soul. I'm like, ooh, okay, yeah.
So we've equipped ourselves with mentors. We've been very bold in how we've approached our business, and we know our worth and our expertise. So really bringing that to the table, and we want to encourage all, especially Black women business owners, to do that and not try to do it all. Like, know what your area of expertise is, and then outsource the rest, because then you get to operating your gift.
I also go ahead. I was gonna say, I also speak to, for me as well, I had to learn how to lead a little differently, and how to delegate, because for a little while, I was doing this by myself. So then my sister came in and helped me do a lot of the heavy lifting as well. But as we're navigating in this space, as she mentioned, we're building and we're growing teams and things. I had to learn how to actually, really be an effective leader. So those are skills that I'm still gaining along the way. I'm a leader in my own right, but when you are managing teams and managing people, there's a different style, or you have to kind of alter just a slight bit, not completely. But those are skills I had to learn, because again, when you go from a solopreneur doing everything by yourself to then having other people coming in, it teaches you how to pivot from doing everything yourself to being like, oh yeah, I have somebody.
Delegate.
Yes. So that is a new skill, a skill that I'm learning very quickly as well.
Yes. No, I love that point. And I think it's a good call out because, again, entrepreneurship can be intimidating, and people think if I don't have the experience or I don't know all the things, then I can't do it. But it's like, no, people are successful in this and still learning how to do it at the same time, the same way of any other job. So it's okay. Also, it's a reminder to people, just because you're doing it already doesn't mean you know how to do everything. So keep learning, right? That continued development. And then to your point earlier, Lakila, when you were talking about you're not alone. I was just having a conversation with some other women about how it's okay to not know everything. We all have our zones of genius, and that's where we thrive and perform the best. So don't spread yourself so thin. Get the extra help when you need it. And I think, again, especially as Black women, we so often feel like we have to portray this strength. And we can do it all, and we don't need help from anyone, but you are setting yourself up for failure. That's where we do struggle, right? When you can't do it all, you do have your mental health that's being damaged. Your business isn't as successful as it can be. And those people you're trying to prove wrong, they're going to be like, oh, well, this is where all the places where you're slacking all of a sudden, because you can't juggle everything. Right. So to be able to say, like, yes, I'm successful, it's okay to have that support team. Other people do it. We can do it too. We're not superhuman.
Right. Exactly. Correct. You want to work on your business, not necessarily always in your business. And then also looking for opportunities to collaborate. Kamille and I are always networking, looking for opportunities to collaborate with particularly other Black women, business owners, or, folks who provide services that complement what we do, that we can bring on board. So I think when we do that, we open ourselves up to opportunities we might not otherwise be able to take on.
Yeah, definitely. So, okay, speaking of looking for partners, tell me a bit more about your particular process, services. So if anybody's listening and are like, oh, I might want to work with y'all, what might that look like from start to finish?
Absolutely. Well, I will start off with just giving my sister her props. Kamille is a phenomenal motivational speaker. I mean, when she starts telling her story and she speaks on panels, she's a keynote, people there, it's life changing. It's perspective changing. And so that's one of the first things that a lot of the business that we have been booking has been speaking engagements where we're coming in, a company is looking to build awareness, or they're having a DEI day or something along those lines. That is one element of our business that is really centered around Kamille, her story, her experiences, and really opens the door to have a larger conversation around DEI work and the differently abled, right? So there's that element. And then there's also we do DEI training and facilitation. We meet companies where they are. If they already have programs that are in place and running, we help support those programs. If they need something kind of from the ground up, we can do that as well. And then we kind of have a host of other ancillary services that we provide in the HR solutions bucket. Whether that's one of our team members is a former EEOC attorney. So we can come in and do risk assessment, compliance assessment, those type of things. So it kind of falls in those ranges primarily, but we focus on solutions, real solutions, engaging and fun. We like to have a good time. We show up as ourselves. I would say if there's any superpower that we have is when you work with iSee Technologies, you are going to have a fun and authentic experience. So, that's what we bring, realness to real life situations, to companies and organizations that are looking to improve in the DEI space.
Yeah. Well, I'm having fun today, so I know that people would have fun with you when they bring you in. Right. Well, this is good. We're gonna get ready to wrap up here in a minute, but before we do, I always have my go-to question that I ask. Okay. So I just want to wrap up with, what do you think organizations need to do to improve the human experience at work?
You gonna start?
Sure. I believe that companies and organizations need to, I feel like, be aware, possibly, or be aware of the biases that you may have. You know, a lot of times people may or may not realize they have them, but all of us do. Even I do. You know, so I just say, if nothing else, have somebody like us come in to work with you, because that's what we do. Also, really listen to your employees and hear what it is that they're really saying. What are their concerns that they're expressing to you? And active listening is very important. Not just listening for a rebuttal, but listen actively to really hear their concerns, or even hear what it is that they're really enjoying about being a part of an organization as well. Not just the bad, but also the good things.
Yes.
Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah. And the only thing that I would add to that is just leveraging your privilege for positive change, right? A lot of times privilege has gotten, a bad connotation. Look, we all have privileges. I was born with sight. That is a privilege of mine. So I use that in power to help support others. It's oftentimes just looking at what are the gifts that we were given, and how do I use that to help be a part of the solution for someone who may not have that same opportunity, that same gift, that same privilege. So
yeah, no, I love both of those. And with both, they both have it's a double-sided coin, right? So with bias, we all have it, and there's good pieces of bias. It's why you don't step off a curb and get hit by a car, right? Like, there's bias as humans that help us survive, but there's also the ugly side of bias when it shows up in places it shouldn't. So it's important for us to be aware of that and what our biases are. But same with privilege. There are pieces of our privilege that it's good for us, right? But it's also maybe negatively impacting someone else. So how can you use that privilege? That's actually how we define allyship at Mattingly Solutions when we talk about it. Is like, you are the ally using your power and status to support and advocate for a person who doesn't have that based on their identity. And so that I love that reminder of using that privilege to support others who don't have the same privilege you have.
Right.
So y'all are amazing. And Lakila, if you aren't out there doing motivational talks too, just know that take that leap, girl, because this is good.
I received that. One thing we can both do is talk. We love all day conversationalist, very loquacious.
No, it's wonderful. So thank you both again for being here today. If you do not know them already or not connected with them, be sure to reach out to them on LinkedIn and connect, or check out their website for iSee Technologies. Bring them in for a talk, bring them in for a workshop. They're amazing, as you can see. So thank you for being here. Thank you all for listening in. And it was great being with you today on Better Humans at Work. We'll talk soon.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.